by one single point. So we have come a hell of a long way from where we were, but we've got to keep pushing. We have got to keep pushing. Paul Ryan's PAC has put $4 million in here to whoop up on me and try to save the district. They're, running these ads saying I'm weak on crime and, giving breaks to, bad guys and that kind of stuff. Look, I believe in criminal justice reform. I believe in being fair. But also, I've been pretty tough too on public corruption. But they're going to twist those things and use a lot of money that's coming from these corporate PACs and these people at the top that are already doing really well to try to manipulate the voters here in this district. The only way we can fight back is with people power. It is not my power that will win this election. It is not a governor's power or a congressman's power or the power of any president that will win this election. It is going to be about your power, the people's power. And so we need volunteers. Get on the train, get on the bus, get on I-55, get in your car, your minivan, whatever you can. Get down here and help us knock on doors, help us make phone calls. Donate. We say it's not enough to be right. You have to fight. I also say don't just hate, donate. We need people to help us out because we're going to fight all the way, and that's the only way we're going to be able to win here. And look, we've got to win these kind of heartland districts in order to be able to get back to House. It won't be enough to get the Hillary districts. It won't be enough to get some races in California or New York. We've got to win here in the heartland, not just for this election, but for the long term, if we're going to be able to bridge the divide and get the country headed back in a direction that brings us all together.
Excellent. We'll put a link to your website up on our website, too. And you may have inspired me to make that drive down. So
Come on down. Get out of the Chicago bubble and come hang out with us. We need it. We need it. Yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it. This is a special place.
All right. Well, Brendan, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I'm really excited about your race, and it's definitely, I think, one of the key ones to watch on election night.
It is, and thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you.
I am absolutely delighted to be back on Two Broads Talking Politics, and I'm very much looking forward to November 6th.
As are we. So, everyone, this is Sara Dady from the Illinois 16th District. Sara has been on the podcast once before, back in, I think it was May, when we did an Illinois episode. So, Sara, I'm so thrilled to catch back up with you and see how things are going in the campaign.
Well, I'm thrilled to be back on the podcast. Thank you. And, today was a very disappointing day. It's Saturday, October 6th, and we saw the Senate Republicans force through the confirmation vote for Judge Kavanaugh for the Supreme Court. So that was very disappointing. Horrifying, actually, would be a better word. But here's the thing, we're 4 weeks out from Election Day. We are 4 weeks away from the Democrats being able to take back one of the three branches of government now controlled by this Republican Party. And we have to remember that. And we have to be committed to doing that. That's our hope. And we can do it.
Absolutely. So let's do a little bit of a reminder for anyone. We've definitely gotten some new listeners since May. So walk us through a little bit about where the 16th district is.
Sure. So my district is the head and heart of Illinois. We run from the Wisconsin border and curve around in a strange J shape to the Indiana border. We're 14 counties and parts of counties, completely outside of the Chicago collar counties. So towns in the district are Rockford, DeKalb, Dixon, LaSalle, Peru, Ottawa, Morris, Illinois, and Watseka, and Pontiac.
And so this is a fairly rural-ish district?
Well, it's interesting. The 16th district is the perfect microcosm, not just of the state of Illinois, but also the U.S. We've got the population density is all to the north. with a lot of manufacturing. And then the rest of the district is pretty much small towns and a lot of farming. But we depend very heavily on construction, manufacturing, and ag, corn and soybean farmers primarily, and pork producers as well.
So what are you hearing from people as you've been going around the district and having events and talking to people? What are the things that are on their minds right now?
The things that people talk about the most are health care, their inability to access health care, the cost of health care. Everywhere that I go in this district, and I've put, at this point, over 37,000 miles on my car, traveling my district, talking with voters. Everyone seems to be having just come from or going to a fundraiser to help pay for somebody's cancer treatment or somebody's surgery. I mean, it's ridiculous, the lack of access to health care. Because I'm an immigration lawyer, people want to know about immigration. It's a hot topic, and it does affect our district. We have 1,800 DACAs that live in the 16th district, and 1,800 people is a population larger than the majority of towns in my district. So you think about having 4 or 5 towns population wiped out overnight. That's the population of DACAs in this district. And people are deeply concerned about President Trump's behavior and the trade war. There's just this general feeling that this sort of behavior in Washington, D.C. is very damaging to our country.
I would tend to agree with that.
I do as well. I just posted today on Facebook about the Kavanaugh confirmation, and I was raised Republican. My parents were Republican. My father still is. And the GOP today is not the Republican Party that I was raised with. The Republican Party that I was raised with still adhered to American principles of honesty and integrity and fair treatment of people. There was room for common ground on many issues between the old Republican Party and the Democratic Party. But today's Republican Party seems to care more about winning than governing. And that's hurting our democracy. Mm-hmm. You know, they'll set aside common decency just to get a win on ideology. And that's unacceptable.
And do you think that people, as you're actually talking to them in person, that we hear so much about polarization, but is that true when you're actually speaking with people, or do you think that the people actually want to try to get along and solve problems together?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. People want to connect. We're human. We're social animals, right? And I've made a commitment when I'm elected, I'm going to create constituent councils in the 4 regions of the district. So anyone, if they're interested in an issue, if they're interested in pending legislation, if they want to know more, if they're directly affected by it, regardless of their political affiliation or how much money they have, they're welcome to come and join a constituent council, study an issue together, build consensus, and have a direct report to me, their representative. Because I understand as a representative, you have to represent everyone in the district, not just the people that agree with you. It's important that we elect people who are going to lead on engaging disagreements and building consensus. You can't build consensus if you're afraid of engaging those who you think disagree with you. And in my district, our current U.S. rep, who's running for his 5th term in Congress, has absolutely refused to hold a public town hall, and he's refused to hold a public town hall for years. He does Facebook town halls. He also last week absolutely refused to debate me or appear in a candidate forum prior to November 6th.
We're hearing that in a lot of places, and it's appalling.
Well, it is appalling. The first time he mentioned it, I challenged him to 4 debates last spring, and he made a comment, well, town halls are just straight out of the Democratic playbook. And I thought about that. I'm like, you know what? You're right, because Democrats care about governing. If you want to represent people, you have to stand up in front of people and tell them who you are and then listen to what they want. As a lawyer, I know I can't represent a client unless I talk with them. How am I ever going to be able to advocate for their best interest if they don't tell me what it is? So my opponent is holding no public events from now through November 6th, which I think is unacceptable. If you're a candidate for public office and you refuse to meet with the public, you have no business running for that office. You shouldn't be able to get a job if you don't show up for the interview.
Yeah. I've been trying to look at this district and in context and sort of figure out, it looks sort of from the outside like it might be kind of a difficult district, but it doesn't look like there's really been any polling. And so I wonder if it's one of these districts that people are just sort of overlooking without realizing, in fact, how disgruntled the people there are and, how willing they might be to work with someone who's actually coming out and talking to them.
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, when I looked at the progressives who won earlier this summer, in Massachusetts and New York, who were running in a primaries against incumbent Democrats, the thing that stood out to me was not so much the progressive message, but the fact that they were on the ground talking to voters and they were running against incumbents who were disconnected from their district. I think people vote for people that they like and they trust. And that means they have to meet the candidate.
And your district is, I think I see like R+8. And, that's right around where everyone is saying is a doable, especially if it's a wave election in November, if people really get out and vote and we can get good turnout, that R+8 should be totally doable.
Oh, it absolutely is. I mean, with each passing day this year, with each insult and insane, cruel policy that the Trump administration passes, and each time Republicans refuse to stand up for decent people against this president, that's what's building the blue wave, right? But even before all of that, this district is winnable. I mean, at the end of the day, people just want to feel like they're being respected and listened to. I think that's what we all want. And we deserve to have that from our elected officials. And we haven't been getting it. I'm disappointed that most of our elections revolve around this idea that it's just about the money, that a candidate's viability is solely determined about how much money they can raise. Maybe that's why we have the Washington, D.C. and the Congress that we currently have that has been so corroded by money. I think that we have to hold our candidates and elected officials to a higher standard than just being a good fundraiser.
One thing I wanted to make sure we definitely talk about is immigration. So you're an immigration lawyer, and since we spoke back in May, the immigration situation has just gotten worse and worse in this country, the way we're treating immigrants and refugees. And I wondered if you could just speak a little bit about the kinds of policies or maybe even the kinds of, research, study, investigation you would like Congress to do.
Sure. So immigration is one of these issues that should not be controversial at all. The only reason it's controversial is because we have a Republican Party that has policies rooted in greed and fear in order to drive their base to turn out to vote to elect them. That's the only reason this is controversial. I don't know when that change happened in the Republican Party, because Republicans used to really understand the importance of good immigration, orderly immigration policy to the economic security of our country. So it's relatively simple. Immigration reform is going to require three things. One, we need broad legalization for the undocumented population that is already here and fully integrated into our communities. That's one. Two, we need a real worker visa program that's tied to economic demand. In the 1980s, President Reagan signed the amnesty, the broad legalization program for agricultural workers.